itself. It'll be like a little sticker with a line through it. Hopefully, if there's no line through it, you click on it and line goes through it.
There's a line. Okay.
Yep.
And then
you can just minimize that.
okay, we're on live, so whenever everyone's ready.
Okay, thank you, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
At 8:04, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority. This is Tuesday, July 21st, 2020. This meeting is being held via Zoom. Robin and Jen, do we have any members of the public attending the meeting via Zoom?
No, we don't.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, then, next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. I ask you to stand and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jen, would you please call the roll?
Board Member Costello,
Here.
Vice Chair Mahovey,
Here.
Chair Pachuki,
Here.
Board Member Stone.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. If there are no members of the public participating, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a closed session for public employee appointment. And the title would be Authority General Counsel. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn the regular meeting so that we could convene the closed session. Jen and Robin, can you put us in a breakout room?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hmm? Okay, Jen. Chris. On by phone. On by phone. By phone. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. 4. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, and open all rooms. There they go. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be seeing an invite on your screen. Thank you, Chris. Steven, Ron, and Will. Okay, they're all in the breakout room. Okay.
I don't see the invite.
Is that Ron talking?
Hey, Robin? Hello, Robin?
Yes?
Destin and I should be in the closed session, I believe.
Jenny said no,
I don't know, but
but if you want me to add you.
should I
Well,
check?
why don't you
One-
add us? We'll ask them when we get in.
Okay, and then you'll leave?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And Destin.
Then you can also send a message to the breakout room, so you'd be able to just message them and ask if we're on
Oh, yeah, okay.
instead of the
Oh, I
meeting.
didn't.
Not that it's a big deal with Ron, but if it was somebody else, you know, that you didn't want accidentally going to the meeting, then do that instead. That's what's wrong, fine.
You see, it's so tiny. Is all right, what was I gonna do?
Oh, did you send that to the breakout room, or did you just send that to chat?
I said broadcast to, I did in the breakout room. But I wanted, where's the video to stop running the Zoom recording?
Recording?
Yeah,
Um,
pause? Not share.
yeah.
Wait,
So go into more, it should be under there, it should say pause recording.
okay, done. I realized I was doing that, so. Okay, got it. Then resume. I know. That's why I do this piece and he does. It's hard to do both. Mhm. I think after time you get better, 'cause you
Yeah.
remember all the steps, but.
It takes a while. So do you leave the phone muted and talk through the computer?
Well, you're muted.
Thank you, Stephen. Do we have Ron Stone back?
Yes,
Ron is back?
yes, we have Chris, Ron, you, and Stephen.
How many Rons?
2 Rons.
Okay.
And we got Destin, so, and I think, who's this?
Steve and Anita also.
And Steve and Anita. So I'll go ahead and start recording again. So if you'll give us one moment.
Okay.
Granicus is running. We are resuming on Zoom, and you're already live on YouTube. So please proceed.
Thank you, Robin.
Welcome.
I'd like to reconvene the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority, and the time is 8:16. The board met in closed session, and we'd like to report out of closed session that the following action was taken in closed session. Upon motion by Director Stone and seconded by Director Costello, the Board of Directors of the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority appointed Best and Krieger as authority legal counsel, effective on board approval of an agreement for legal services with Best and Krieger. And that agreement will be discussed in the following agenda item. And the vote in closed session was as follows. Director Muchovi, yes. Director Stone, yes. Director Costello, yes. Director Pachuki, yes. Moving on to agenda item number 6, approval of legal services agreement. At this point, we may consider the approval for legal services agreement with Best and Krieger for the provision of legal services to the authority. And in your packet, hopefully you've received an agreement from Best and Krieger for their services. At this time, I'd like to open discussion with respect to that agreement.
The only discussion point I want to bring out is I think they'll serve this board very well. They have a comprehensive list of experience in dealing with joint powers authorities, and in particular with wastewater joint powers authorities. So they bring a breadth of knowledge that is pretty extensive and vast, and so I think they'll do a good job.
Okay. Ron Phillips, you're usually on top of these kind of agreements and details. Do you did you see anything in there that you wanted to discuss?
Oh, I think it's good. Thank you.
Any other participants here this morning have comments with regard to the agreement? If there is no further,
I'll make a motion that we accept the agreement as is with Best and Krieger.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Costello.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We have a motion and a second. Jen, would you like to poll the board on this?
Sure. Board Member Costello,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mahovey,
Yes.
Chair Pachuki,
Yes.
Board Member, who did I forget? Stone, I'm sorry, Ron. Board Member Stone.
Hello, Ron.
You're muted, Ron.
Apparently it was muted and I didn't do it. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Motion passed, thank you.
Okay. So as an administrative item, we've approved Best and Krieger. We've accepted their agreement for services. I'll kind of throw this out maybe to Jen. At this point, I would assume that following this meeting, they will be contacted. Who should contact them, and how do we proceed with getting them on board?
I can contact them and let them know, and then once the agreement is signed, we can get everybody copies.
Okay. There was, Jen, when you contact them, there was a detail in the agreement, and I don't know if it's something they want to correct or not, but in the signature block, they have me as president rather than chair. And in our formation agreement for the authority, it's referenced as chair rather than president.
Okay, I'll let them know that and change it.
Yes, that's a minor thing, and if we can catch it now, it's the time to do that. Thank you, Jen, for contacting them. Agenda item number 7 is consent items, approval of the minutes of authority formation meeting on June 30th, 2020. Do we have a motion for, well, actually, and for you City of Bishop folks, have to get used to the consent item agenda over in the district. We don't handle it quite this way. So in the city, when you have a consent items, you have A and B here. Do you take them together or do you break them apart separately? What do you prefer?
Typically, consent items are just items that they're for informational filing. And so we can discuss them if we want, but we usually just approve them all in one motion.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Thank you, Stephen. So I'll open discussion on consent items, and following discussion, if there can be a motion.
I'm not sure if anybody, I'm sure you all got to look at the sample, the monitor well results, and I wasn't sure if there was any questions regarding any of that.
Are we in violation of anything?
We are not in violation of anything.
All right.
And thank you, Destin, for including that in the packet. And Steve, probably from this point on, we might want to do the same for the district wells that are sampled and analyzed.
They're in there as well.
Were they?
Yeah, they're probably the last part of that, right after the City of Bishop ones.
Okay. For some reason, I was looking at well numbers and oh, there we go. There's 6 and 7. Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you. While we're talking about sample results, Destin, about a year or so ago, we tried to, the district tried to collaborate with the city when we got results back, and then compile both sets of results in graphical form. Are we still doing that, or did that kind of drop by the wayside?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think we've done it in a while. And and I'll be honest with you, GeoTracker has made it a little more cumbersome, or so there's really not a spot for them in there. So it's something that I keep all the results as well as yours, can put them on a graph at any time. I just haven't, to be honest with you, because just haven't had a place to send them into the state, to Lahontan.
Yeah, and those graphs, I think, were used, well, I know they were just used internally for our benefit, and I don't know how Lahontan got their graphs, whether they generated them somehow out of GeoTracker or whether we submitted them, but I don't think we need to submit them to Lahontan unless they're mandating it. But for my purposes anyhow, I like to see those graphical trends. And I don't want to create another task for you, but if there's a way that that can be done, I'd like to collaborate with you on that.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem at all. It just takes a few minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be useful to see. I don't know that we need to see it every month, but on a quarterly basis could be interesting.
Right, right. And it's one of the reasons why I'd like to do it is to be proactive, and I'd like to see it before Lahontan does. In case we get a phone call or something, we're ready.
No, that's not a problem. I can put them together for the next meeting. I'll probably put them over the last year or two. We'll just see, but not a problem.
Sounds good. Thanks, Destin. All right,
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent calendar as is.
we have a motion. We have a second.
Stone would second.
Motion and a second. I guess I'll have to kind of poll people. Chris?
Yes.
Before we poll, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. We need to ask Anita if there's been any public comment.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Anita, are you there? Okay. If she hasn't come out the door behind me, then there's no public comment. So we can go ahead and pull the board. Walt, do you want to do that, or would you like me to do that?
No, once again, Jen, I apologize. Getting used to this format, please pull the board.
Okay. Board Member Costello,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hovey,
Yes.
Chair Pachuki,
Yes.
Board Member Stone.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
And thank you. Agenda item 8, update on resource concepts work and potential addendum. Destin, how would you like to take the lead on this?
Sure, so hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to look at the staff report. Just a little background. Eastern Sierra Community Service District has been under agreement with RCI for about the past 7 months, I'd say. RCI, from that agreement, delivered the land area calculations for irrigation alternatives study. The city of Bishop at that time partnered with the district and paid half of all those costs. The total cost of that effort was $35,000. The results of the study have led to negotiations between the Bishop Area Wastewater Authority and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power on exactly how much land LADWP can and will sell. It appears at this time that LADWP is prepared to sell land in 2 phases to the authority. The first phase will include 302 acres. Of the 302 acres, approximately 129 is the land included in both the city and the district's current discharge permit. The remaining 170 acres is mostly land south of Cashbaugh Lane. There's the sale will come in 2 phases, and the second phase is an additional 132 acres, which the trigger to sell this land at this time appears to be flow based. Last week, representatives from the authority met with RCI down at the plant. We went out and toured the entire discharge area, and they brought a new member of their team with them and started looking, trying to put together a scope of how do we move forward with a farm management plan and what is a farm management plan. It was actually a really good meeting. Jill Sutherland participated out by phone as well. And I think we got at least a good start for RCI to put together, submit back what their scope is, probably some costs, and then we can refine it from there. What else? So at this time, the cost for that effort hasn't been identified. With that being said, once the cost has been identified, city staff would get council approval, and it would be assumed that the district staff would do the same through their board. I continue to believe, and it's up to you all, but the current arrangement where the district contracts directly with RCI and the city pays half to the district is the best route for this to happen. Because we should be well underway by the time we have our next meeting. And barring a special meeting, I don't see us, we need to have this contract going in the next probably 3 weeks or so. So that's kind of a short synopsis of where we're at with RCI. I guess, any questions from that?
Dustin, I have a question because you're mentioning in the staff report, you mentioned phase 3. The phase 3 would that be more land transfer, or is that just phase 3 in actually the development of the plan for management, for farm management?
Yes, that would be, the latter is correct. This is phase 3 of our work with RCI.
I see.
We've done, what we did is the basics of coming up with the land area calculations. That was our first phase. And then we did a kind of a very beginning stages of a farm management plan, because we needed those numbers to come up with the acreage. So this farm plan will be phase 3 with RCI.
I see. So, okay, I got confused because the land release from DWP is named phase 1 and phase 2. And so it just threw me off. Like, what does phase 3 have to do with the DWP land? So that makes sense. All right.
I apologize on that. You're right. That is a little confusing.
We're limited in our vocabulary in the English language. So.
And it is hard when you're writing something, because in my mind, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I apologize. I should have made it a little clearer.
No worries.
All right.
And I appreciate seeing the maps here. What do we have? We have 90 days to adopt is it 90 days to adopt an interim budget for the authority? And since this next part of the agreement would happen within those within that time frame, i.e. before we actually have an interim budget, I do think it makes sense to follow your suggestion in paying for this project due to the time constraints. But curious what other people think.
I concur with Dustin's recommendation. It's the most expeditious way to proceed, and I believe that our district board would continue as we have in the past. The relationship with the city and the district sharing costs has been excellent so far. Ron is another board member. Ron Stone is another board member for the district. What are your thoughts?
I would concur with the way Destin has presented it. I think it's the most expeditious and efficient and time-wise.
Okay. So I think you can count on the board of directors for the district supporting that approach and getting this moving.
Yeah, it's just a little bit, it's exactly the same idea I think is going to happen when we get a budget. We're going to still take it to our boards and councils and approve it. So we're just kind of budgeting this one up a little bit in the process.
Yep, exactly. No, it'll work. No reason why not. Well, this agenda item was for discussion only. No action is needed. I believe we have direction. So further comments or discussion? If not, we can move on to interim budget discussion. And if you'll excuse me as my voice goes hoarse here, you can kind of read. So I'll throw a jump ball up. Whoever wants to start the discussion on the interim budget.
And I don't mind just a little bit of background. Paul and I definitely have gone back and forth and counted our days and did everything. We're going to meet all of the requirements at our next regularly scheduled meeting of adopting a budget at that point. I think, and I want anybody to chime in. I kind of put a little outline or just some thoughts of what I think we need to include in that budget. And it won't be, it's not all encompassing. These are just my thoughts, and everybody else that wants to, please chime in. I was assuming that we need to have testing. We'll end up with probably in that year hiring an appraiser for an independent appraisal of the property that DWP is going to require to be done. Any environmental efforts we may need, we should possibly budget some money into there for that. Sprinkler design and construction. I could definitely see design happening on the current discharge area within this budget fiscal year. And then obviously insurance and legal costs and things like that. And please add on to that list.
Destin, did you mention professional fees for BB&K?
He just mentioned legal costs.
Legal costs.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry, I guess that would have been a better way to put it.
No, no problem. Just didn't. I think you hit the highlights. Now the next question is, excuse me again, Destin, you've carried the ball on this to get it started. As far as plugging in some numbers, how do you want to proceed?
Well, I assume that, the testing is fairly straightforward, sampling and testing. We can come up with a good number on that one easily. The appraisal, I could do some homework, call Cheryl Breton, who's done most of all of them for us, get a number from her for that. All of this stuff's just going to be homework and coming up with numbers and be able to present them at the October meeting. A more hard, I don't even want to guess at this moment exactly.
Well, no, didn't want you to go there, but
yeah,
sounds like you've got a good plan. So it sounds like you'll be ready for the October meeting. Do you need any assistance from anybody?
Yeah, I can, I'll definitely keep in touch with Steve on it. And it's fairly similar to the way we do, how we put our budgets together. And so I don't mind. I got 3 months. Like I said, it seems like a long time, but it won't be.
No, it won't be.
That's
yeah, I'm just looking at our actual formation document where we're talking about what are the big points that we want the authority to be doing. And one of them, number one, is of course, take all actions necessary. And I was kind of viewing that as a ways to guide the budget for the near future. And number one is, of course, take all the actions necessary to operate, maintain, and improve both the existing irrigation system and create a new irrigation system. So that's something you're including in the budget. Number two, acquire additional land. That's something that's also included in the budget. Number three was design and construct a diversion structure to alleviate primary capacity concerns. Is that any work that we're intending to do this year? Maybe in a design scope, or do we have an idea for that?
Actually, that's a great one, Stephen, that we need to have some discussion about, because it's definitely probably the district high on their priority list of getting some flow. But what we want to design is a whole nother story. And I think personally, I think we need to look at a bigger structure that's going to be able to be more controlled. So I would say that, I'd like to hear what the district thinks on that one.
Steve, I'll start. And I'll answer the question with a question. Destin and Steve, do you think that within the next year, the district and the city could at least initiate some discussion about possible alternatives? And do you think that discussion could put us in a position of wanting to do a first pass preliminary feasibility with an engineering firm or anything, or any in-house work?
On my side, I would say, yeah, I would like to at least revisit what it was like 10 or 12 years ago, the study that was performed back then, and see how, if we could utilize it or any part of it. Yeah, that was more in the lines of what we're talking about right now. It was a big effort, but yeah, I think we definitely should start investigating that direction.
And so I think it behooves us to, sorry, there were some unread comments. I was just gonna say it would behoove us to add some funding with line items with regards to at least like studying that and scoping it out.
Yes.
Probably the bottom line, that's, yeah, exactly right. So, Steve, if you and Destin, and you're right, we've got a report on the shelf. We can pull that off, and maybe that's all we need to do is review that rather than expend any additional funds to answer questions.
Let's see other things that are on there. Pursue grant funding and financing options for future projects, fund storage pond improvements. I mean, I guess grant funding we need to be looking for at any point in time. So I don't know, maybe, I mean, the way I see a first pass budget, we have a first pass budget that's big and then we whittle things down.
Exactly.
So I would even include some funding for like a part-time grant writer. And because those are the kind of things that can actually pay for themselves. Storage pond improvements, those, do we need any at this point that we know?
I don't really see any that are going to be happening this next year.
Nope.
Right off the bat, we're ready to, right now we can move flow from the district into our ponds for irrigation purposes. Those are all small improvements that have already been made. Other improvements are way big ideas.
Mm-hmm. And this interim budget, is it supposed to be for the full year, or is it just a smaller period of time? I forget.
That's a good point, Stephen, because actually in October, we're going to be a quarter of the way through that. I would assume we want to stay on our fiscal years.
Right.
So
Right.
by the time October.
I'm sorry, I believe it's to the end of the fiscal year, and then you'll start the new fiscal year with a full budget.
Right. Right, but the new fiscal year starts in July, and we had to get a budget for that fiscal year out by March. So we're really talking about a budget that's going to be in place from October to July. So it's not a full it's not a full 12 months, but it does cover the fiscal year. Okay.
Right.
All right. All right.
I agree with you, and we're such in our infancy of this that it may be, we need to keep it simple and not too expensive. And then, because in the coming months, we're going to start hearing a lot more from DWP and stuff on that value of land.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, yeah, when we start going into the full fiscal year, then we start looking at more of the long-term items that we agreed to do with the that we are committed to doing as part of the wastewater authority, and start, yeah, chugging through those. I think this makes sense.
So with that being said, do we want to look at our budget as keep it fairly simple at this point in time and look at the the testing of getting our legal costs, our insurance in there, and then maybe one of these other bigger tasks that we could conceptually come up with, maybe even a sprinkler design by the end of this fiscal year, and be ready to put in a budget item to construct after that, the following year.
I think that's a good idea because with the design, we would actually have a better sense of how much it will cost, and that will inform the next year's budget a lot better.
I would agree at that point because I think that we're just the big driver in this whole thing is what DDP is going to want for money, and we're going to need to have that in the bank. The Lahontan's going to want to see some improved irrigation out there. So coming up with that design, hopefully a farm management plan and a design will get us to that budget number for the following year.
Yep. Sounds about right. We've still got everybody on board. Any discussion?
I'll ask Anita if there's any public comment on this item.
Okay.
Looks like there's no public comment.
Okay. This is a good time. I want to go back in the agenda a little bit. And once again, I'm getting used to the structure of this authority in that we have Jen, you as a secretary, and Destin, you as an administrator. And earlier, after we elected to retain Best and Krieger, Jen, I asked you if you would contact them, but I'm going to just put it on the table. Destin and Jen, as we move forward, this kind of a contact, is it most appropriate that it is made by Destin or Jen? How do you both feel about that?
I would have no issues with doing that. I think it makes sense to do it that way, but it's up to you four.
I'm open. Jen, jump in on this one.
Either way works for me. I'm happy to do it, or if you, we're so easygoing, right?
Is the question?
As Destin said, whichever way the board would like to do it, but I'd be happy to do it if that's what you'd like.
Is the question just whether to have Jen or Destin to contact the attorneys?
To serve as the primary point of contact. That's correct, Steve. So Destin is the administrator for the authority, Jen is the secretary, and I'm just trying to more or less identify responsibilities or
I see.
how does it flow.
I do remember Jen mentioning last time that she didn't want to be our secretary full time, which really hurt my feelings.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm assuming that some item with that is going to be in the budget, but I mean, in light of that, I mean, if Destin doesn't object to it, I think it'd be fun to have
Mr.
that
Chair.
continuity. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, Ron Stone. The fact that Jen has a working relationship with BB&K at the present time through the district,
Sure.
that might be prudent to consider that as far as being the liaison with BB&K. And I'm not sure, maybe I'm not throwing water on Destin, it's just a working relationship at the present time.
Exactly, and what I'm trying to do is look into the future and maintain continuity of that point of contact. And as Stephen said, with Jen's concern about future involvement for herself, is it most prudent to establish contact through the administrator, Destin, and maintain that continuity? So that's my question.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. So in regards to that, any thoughts?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Ron Phillips.
Go ahead, Ron.
I think it'd be good to at least allow Destin to be able to contact them directly on some matters, so that it's easy to lose something through multiple contacts, not having to do with any personality, but I think that it would be good to be able to maintain some direct contact there when necessary.
Well, that was
Good point.
exactly my thought.
Good point.
So if I sense somewhat of a consensus here, Destin, if we're not overloading you with stuff, in addition to your normal workday, maintaining that continuity, and a primary point of contact with BB&K, I think they would appreciate knowing who they're going to call. And if you're not available or you need some backup, you got Jen to go to. That makes sense to me.
That works for me, and it makes sense.
Okay.
I would concur.
So-
All right.
I think it's good, Destin. And then if you're busy, you can ask the secretary if they can do some of the work for you when needed.
Yep.
Definitely, and most time it's pretty simple. Paula and I have been emailing a lot, just trying to get this first agenda out, and it wasn't too bad. Those are going to be busy week or so, but not bad.
Good.
Is it? I'm just curious because we don't have it on the agenda, but we're kind of in this discussion right now. I've done some talking with Michelle, who is the Public Works Secretary, who runs the Planning Commission meetings and such. We talked about time and stuff, and just throwing it in there. She said that she would be fine with being the clerk to this board if we need to, if we're looking to relieve Jan and Anita from this duty.
Okay. Destin, I appreciate your suggestion there. And Jen, how do you want to proceed with this?
If Michelle is willing, I think that would be wonderful. But if there's, I'm not sure where to go with this. I know that the district wants to share some of the duties, but as I said, between me and Anita, the timing is hard to imagine. So if Michelle would be willing, and if the board would like to put that on a future agenda for consideration, I think we could do that.
Okay, and in the meantime, Jen, maybe you and Anita and Michelle and maybe Destin, whatever, just feel free to have an informal chat about moving forward and how best to do that.
Okay.
All right. Destin, thanks for bringing that to the table. Much appreciated. Any further discussion on agenda item 9? If not, then we'll move on to agenda item 10, informational items. We have the maps and the planned overview. Do we have any question about the maps of the discharge areas and the irrigated areas? And these maps have been used in discussions with DWP. I think we touched on them earlier in Destin's briefing in the work that RCI is doing. Questions, comments? Destin, do you have any input at this point with respect to the maps?
No, I just point out that the map that shows the discharge areas, that's a City of Bishop map. The other one was produced by LADWP, and is right now that's what they're going with to the next level of administration through DWP to get the sale moving. As it might be worth noting just quickly, I think it's worth, you can see the very relatively small amount of land that's discharged on right now. It's on that City of Bishop map, and you can tell it's those green areas. we're roughly irrigating about a third of what we have. So an irrigation system, a pressurized sprinkled irrigation system, you can see how much more we could cover just on the current discharge area.
Hey, Destin,
Yes.
we had talked in the last meeting about the leasee and potential, pushback and everything. I know you have some relationship with them. Has any kind of informal conversation happened with that, or?
So last Wednesday, Ron and I had a kind of meet and greet with Adam Perez and about numerous cities projects when this just kind of got touched. And Adam and Elsa said that they are still arranging that meeting with the lessees. It has not happened yet.
Okay, thanks.
I thought Clarence was going to do it, but he's gone. He didn't get it done.
Destin, just a quick clarification on this map. So the existing area is that we have is effectively what we're looking at as phase 1. Is that correct?
So it's the existing area, but then you'll see Cashbaugh Lane on the DWP map, the blue dashed lines that go through between the blue and the green. All the green that's south of Cashbaugh Lane,
right, is still phase 1, and that would be new. Okay. That would be new ground. And the blue on the phase 1 is effectively, it's similar to what we already have, right?
Correct. Yes.
There's a weird angle between the red hatched area and the straight east-west line on the eastmost side of the blue, but I wonder if that's just an artifact of the map.
Yeah, I think it is, Stephen. I think that this was our best guess off of what we had for information. DWP's is probably more accurate. That straight line, I would believe, is the accurate line.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Just because, yeah, that's probably something you should look into, because it looks like there's a dirt road that the straight line kind of cuts out, which is included in the red hatched area. So just a detail.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and interestingly enough, they didn't keep any, well, I guess they didn't need to worry about the road right away. The other Cashbaugh Lane is just, it has that blue hatched line or dashed line to signify where they need to keep their ditches. If you remember, for fresh water on a wet year, they don't want to give up the rights to be able to use those to spread water.
Okay, that looks cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's it'll serve. It'll take phase 1 will take us far into the future, I believe.
Yeah. Further questions about the maps? If not, we have an agenda item here about plant overview. And both Destin and Steve are, this is an opportunity for you to present any information you'd like to.
Steve, you've been, I've talked too much. You go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure what it is we're looking for as far as the overview of the plant, as far as what our processes are, or is that what we're talking about here?
I'm going to assume that you would just, just kind of your capacity, a quick over through the process and through the ponds into pasture. It doesn't have to be I don't have a scientific one put together.
just pretend I don't know much about your plant. Tell me what you think I would, as a board member, that I should know about your plant.
Okay. Our rated capacity is 850,000 gallons per day. We were doing averaging about 700,000 gallons a day before all the COVID-19 closures and shutdowns. We've dropped down to just under 500,000 gallons per day. Sometimes we do a little more. As far as our process goes, we have the flow comes into the plant. It goes through a screen to remove all the trash. Then after it goes through the screen, it goes into aerated grit chamber. What the aerated grit chamber does is it slows the flow down enough for all the heavy inorganic material to set out, like all the sand and rocks and stuff like that. And it's aerated to keep the organic matter in suspension because we need that in the plant. Then it goes into the primary clarifier, and the flow is slowed down some more for the organic material to either settle out or the floating material, to stay on the surface and be skimmed off the top. And then the sludge that settles to the bottom is pumped to the digester, anaerobic digester, and that breaks down the solids and also produces methane gas. And the methane gas is used to run the boiler because you have to maintain the anaerobic digester at about 98 degrees for it to work right. It works just like the human stomach does in breaking down what you eat, basically. Then from the primary clarifier, it goes to the aerated lagoon, where we're trying to nitrify our ammonia. And then from the lagoon, it goes out to either our perk ponds or during the summertime, pretty much all summer, one of the ranchers out here, Roy Booth, takes all our water and flood irrigates his land with it. And that's basically it.
Just a question. I know this number I've heard it before. When was your plant built, and how many typical, what's the typical area? How many typical users are contributing to that flow? Do you know? Maybe Walt answered that. I don't know.
Yeah, off the top of my head, Walt knows when the plant was built. I can't think of that date on the top of my head.
It was constructed in about 1975, Stephen, by the County of Inyo, and our district was formed through LAFCO in 1977. So the district took it over from the county in 77, constructed in about 75. The number of connections, as they're referred to, and Stephen and Jen, you might catch me on this, I believe we have around 1,750 plus or minus. And that includes Highlands. We also serve the tribe on a contract basis. We have served the tribe ever since the county constructed it and the tribe sent their flow to the system. That contract is something our district inherited. In retrospect, maybe we do things a little differently today, but it is what it is.
And when we say that the flow has gone down because of COVID, is that because there's a lot of industry in those connections, or because I imagine people are still home and they're still using the bathroom?
Yeah, well, I was talking to Destin the other day, and he was saying that the potable water use in the city has gone up, but their treatment plant flows have gone down also. So, it's mainly people staying at home and doing gardening and washing their cars and stuff like that. All the restaurants were closed. The businesses that were open had their public restrooms closed. The mobile home parks, not the mobile home parks, but Highlands RV Park, they had a big washroom there and stuff, and showers. They've closed all those. They're still closed. So just mainly from the businesses.
I see. It's a good way to gauge kind of, it's an unpleasant way, but a good way to gauge how much is actually being used by residential against versus commercial. which might
Yeah,
be a
we
useful
don't-
piece of data point for the future.
Yeah, and we don't do potable water, so, we don't have anything to do with the potable end of it. And also on the reservation, the casino was closed, Goyabi was closed. They even closed the tribal offices for a while in the schools. So, a lot of businesses that contributed to the system haven't been open.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah.
All right, Destin, you want to cover the City of Bishop's plant, similar to Stevens?
Sure. So we essentially run identical plants starting at the headworks through digestion. We run a 1.6 million gallon a day design capacity. We run it. We are also, as Steve mentioned, our plant flows are down. That's attributed to, we have a third of our flow mostly comes from the commercial sector, a lot of restaurants and hotels. Also, I think it's worth noting, and we all, the groundwater now has dropped down to closer to 15 feet in town at well 2. That attributes to a loss of flow for us as well, just because we have 600 manholes, 22 miles of pipe. Everything has a tiny drip coming into it here and there. And now that we're back out of the groundwater, that's a huge, I think that's a big factor in this reduced flows. The main difference for us after the plants is our pond system. The City of Bishop utilizes 40 acres of ponds. About half of those ponds are part of our treatment process, ponds 1, 2, and 3. They're lined ponds, so we don't get any percolation, some evaporation. But it gives us a tiny bit of an advantage when it comes to nitrogen removal, because our pond 1 is where we attack the biological oxygen demand, which it sounds funny, but I'm put it like you said, as the board member, not science. The bugs that destroy your BOD are the kind of the alpha bugs in the ponds. They beat everything else up. So until you can get that BOD down to less than 30 milligrams per liter, nitrification can't even think about happening. So we hope to get ours down to 30 out of pond 1, and then we go back to a quiet anaerobic type state without the oxygen, and then we denitrify. Our ponds are fairly successful during the warm months of the year of denitrifying. We have, as you saw in those last sample results, an influent ammonia of 21 and an effluent out of pond 3 at around 14 in June. As warmer it gets, all of a sudden we start getting reductions down to almost less than 10 in total nitrogen. But that only happens in the warm months, and then anything less than 40 degrees and all that biological activity kind of slows down or almost stops. And then from pond 3, we go to the pond 4, where we store water for irrigation, essentially, not a true storage pond, no lining. And from there, the city staff irrigates the about 125 acres of pasture out there that is leased to Roy Booth as well. That's kind of it in a nutshell right there. I don't want to bore you with all the science.
Are you really insinuating that science bores me?
I know it doesn't bore you, Stephen.
Hey, Destin.
Yes, Chris.
When you say the city irrigates, you talking?
Whoops. Could you say that one more time? It broke up right halfway through. Chris? Did we lose Chris?
Well, Chris is muted.
I'm back again, but I glitched. But my question was, when you say the city irrigates, you're just talking about opening and closing the gates and stuff to send the water where you want it?
Correct, yeah. So we city staff irrigates everything, opening and closing and moving water around and regulating how much and all that.
And This is kind of unrelated, but a little related. So when do the raccoons also eat the like grease at the other plant?
The raccoons love that place, but since we've gotten Hector Martinez, a great welder on board, we've actually screened our entire clarifier. So poor guys don't have anything to eat anymore.
Okay, so that's why I see more of them using the sewer lines in town to move around town.
Yeah, they love that stuff. And then it's a family tradition. They teach their baby. It just goes on forever.
Thank you, Steve and Destin. Your summaries
Thanks,
were
you guys.
excellent. I don't know how you summarized our processes so quickly, succinctly, right on target. There's one thing I'd like to add for the benefit of everyone involved in this meeting this morning. So we have two plants side by side that, as you heard, are essentially quite similar, almost identical. And the district plant is, under normal conditions pre-COVID, is nearing our maximum design capacity. So that creates pressure on the district to do something about that before we're in violation. Now, with regard to our district collection system, we have adequate capacity through the collection system and it's well located. Now, our next door neighbor across the chain link fence, the city of Bishop, is just the opposite of that. Plenty of capacity in the plant, but parts of the collection system either aren't located ideally for members of the city of Bishop, and or the size of the collection line may not be what you'd like to handle your maximum flows. So that was one of the fundamental drivers of us talking to each other and saying, can we form a joint powers and talk about these disparities that we share that are reversed, and can we benefit each other? So the technicalities of the treatment aside, what we have is an opportunity here as a joint powers authority to mutually benefit each other. Questions?
And I mean, and I think that's definitely something that, if not in the interim budget, in the real budget, we should start addressing these sort of long-term plans and planning things out and actually get a plan of like, okay, how are we going to make full use of everything? How much is it going to cost? How can we? Yeah, I think we're all on board with that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I think it's an exciting opportunity for all of us, and taking this into the future will contribute to our community. So
Great.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, thanks you guys for that presentation. I like to nerd out with this stuff. It's good to know.
I can simplify it more, Stephen. We flush and they make it go away.
Okay, Chris, thank you. No further discussion on agenda item 10. We can move on to agenda item 11, discussion regarding future actions. And there's a bullet list here that obviously Destin and Paul may have worked to prepare. I'll open discussion. Go for it.
This actually goes back to budgeting, but I didn't see if there was anything on there. Maybe I missed it for all the advertisement and the announcements and public stuff that we have to do. So that might get added into the budget.
Good point.
Yeah. And I would imagine adoption of bylaws, adoption of conflict of interest code, adoption of policies and procedures. Isn't this a lot of what our legal counsel would have a bunch of boilerplate stuff for? So I would imagine they would just bring it back to us.
I would expect, Stephen, any input? And Destin, did you have any inkling in your discussions with Paula about this?
You know, it appeared to me that this is all exactly like Stephen said, boilerplate, and just be put together. I guess I somewhat thought maybe it would be here now, but I forgot we didn't hire him until today. So
Very good. Very, very good.
So I think we'll have, we should hopefully have drafts for this by the next meeting, and we can go through it and hash it all out. I guess one of the things we ought to do is Form 700, right? But I think we still have some time to do it. I don't know how many Form 700s I've done this year.
yeah, exactly. And that's something, I guess, now that it's official and we let Paula know and Ward, then maybe they can start funneling that stuff electronically to us, whatever we can to get done.
If I could interrupt, so Michelle should have forwarded the Form 700s to the board members.
Yes.
And you electronically from the recorder's office, and you have until the 27th to file it.
Right.
So they should
That's
have it.
right. Michelle Hartshorn, she did send it to us on Friday the 17th, which was last Friday. Yeah. And we have it by July 27th. Just found it.
Okay, and then the rest of the officers have, once the conflict of interest code is adopted by the County of Inyo Board of Supervisors, then the rest of the officers, the secretary and administrator and auditor, controller, and treasurer can have 30 days to file from that date. That's for this Form 700.
Just an aside on that 700, I worked through it this weekend, and in the past, it seems to me like we were able to submit or sign the Form 700 electronically and submit it. This time it appears from Michelle's email and the process itself that you can fill out the Form 700 and you'll have to print it out, hard sign it, and mail it to Michelle, is the direction I got. I have a call into her. I hope she calls back today. Otherwise, it'll be submitted. The only reason I bring that up is because there may be an extra day or two you need to build into your timing to get it done and submit it on time. All right. No further discussion on agenda item 11. We can move on to 12, which is future agenda items. Do we have any suggestions?
I think between all the items in 11 and the budget, that might keep us fairly occupied. I don't have anything else that I can think of offhand. That's my way to say it.
I'd like to add the RCI report.
Yes.
And progress with regard to that.
DWP.
Yep. Further additions of the future agenda items.
Should we add insurance, continue insurance to the next agenda? We didn't really talk about it much in number 11.
Yeah.
Well,
when is it that, or I guess that would be a Ward or Paula question, is when do we need to have this in effect?
Good question.
are you talking E&O insurance? Is that it or what?
I think we're talking about just a general liability, automobile, the whole
Okay.
works of it.
All right.
It would probably include E&O, Ron, it's my guess.
Yeah. I think Robin sent me something yesterday. Find it here. Um, really, let's see, so see, general liability, auto, what else do we got? Workers' comp. I don't know that we need that or how that will work. Uh, what else does she have here? Pollution insurance. So there's a long list of them, it looks like, of what the city typically keeps. It'd probably be exactly what each of us have for our own wastewater side right now. We just need to duplicate that.
Yep. Okay, so we'll have discussion on that. Further future agenda items.
Nothing from me.
Okay, Chris. If there
Me
are
either.
no additions, we can move on to agenda item number 13, additional board and staff reports. Do we have any?
I had, if as a staff report, and Steve did as well. I met with Jay Cass last, what was it, last Friday or the Friday before? I'm not positive, right? But we walked through, and saw a lot of excitement from Jay that this is actually happening. He asked, and I guess I just get direction from you all or permission. He asked that we submit the DWP map with the potential land sale. He would like to include it in his next report to the state board, just to show progress, what progress has happened in Bishop. And I told him that I would definitely, I wasn't afraid to share it with him, but I said I think it would be better if now that we have a newly formed board, that I run it by everybody first. Meeting went well. Like I said, sometimes I think he kind of has expectations. We need to get him on board with how we're going about this. He actually made a comment. He says, "Well, Dester, are you going to go over and show me your other plant?" I said, "No, that's Steve's plant." So we just need to get him, a basis on what is and what isn't going to be included. And I wanted to mention too also that there's a lot of funding out there right now for a combination of combining water districts, but I'm sure that there's funding as well out there for combining of wastewater. So that's something I'll investigate. And lastly, this is just totally throwing this out on the table, and I don't know where it falls, but when you're talking about funding and stuff, I know there's a big driver out there, that the tribe, that was looking for additional capacity and such through the district, and we're working on creating that. Is that another potential source? I know they were looking at contributing to a new plant.
Excellent suggestion, Destin. Excellent. Jen, could you put that on our district agenda for the next meeting, and possible contact of Peter Bernasconi with regard to that? Destin, is the city active with IRWIMP?
Yes, we are. We're actually just got an email looking for some funding from us. If we were gonna, and actually I do work with Holly, and I talk occasionally. She's interested in the combining of water districts, but so yeah, we are still active members with their association.
Yeah, if there's anything that is available through them and we can position ourselves for it. It seems like some of the opportunities through them, you have to think ahead almost 2 years in some cases to get in line for it. So if there's anything we can be doing with regard to the upcoming irrigation system or the design of it, or anything along those lines, between you and Steve and us, the two organizations, it might be an opportunity to explore.
For sure.
Okay. Any further reports or comments from anybody?
Oh, Jen, I just came to my mind. It was back an item ago, but I'm sorry. But in our future items, I think, did we include the budget?
We
Oh.
did.
No,
Oh, got it.
Thanks.
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Same here.
This is Steve. Am I muted?
No, you're good,
you're on.
Steve.
You can hear me? Okay. Yeah, when Jay came over here, Destin had already gone over pretty much everything with him on the new irrigation system and the land acquirement and all that. The one thing Jay told me, he's looking forward to having just one discharge permit. You know, instead of each of us operating under, you know, our own permits, they want to just issue one permit for the Bishop Wastewater Authority. He said he's really looking forward to that.
So those of us who've been with our agencies for a while, we know this has been the elephant in the room with regard to the regulatory agency, Lahontan, for years now. So I'd just like to put this out in the open for a minute or two. Destin, where do you think the city stands on that? Do you have any position one way or the other, one or two permits?
well, I mean, ultimately, I felt like when we were doing our formation meetings that was a goal of the organization was going to be have one discharge permit. I don't think we need to rush to have one discharge permit. I think it's something that we need to. A lot of things need to fall in place before that happens.
Right.
But I definitely, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You know, that I know it makes Lahontan's job easier to manage one permit, but it also means they can point fingers now. So it's something to remember when we need to be ready for that when it comes.
Yep.
It is a bit of a double-edged sword. And Destin, your comment about not rushing into it is really important, because as Lahontan starts drafting that WDR, I believe we need to be a participant in that process and give them some input before they get carried away and do something that's a bit unachievable for us. But yeah, the one discharge permit's going to happen at some point. They're years behind renewing our discharge permit. So the single permit is something we just need to, I believe we need to participate with them on, if that's the direction we're headed.
Agreed. And I think that the
Yeah.
discharge permit should also be developed based off of our farm management plan, and
Yes.
not,
Right.
and that will really make things a lot easier to deal with. It almost should look like the one we have right now.
Yep, exactly. Okay, we're still under agenda item 13, additional board and staff reports. Further items there. Been some good discussion here this morning. There's no further items. Prior to moving to adjournment, I think we can, the next meeting has already been established in our formation, and that is the third Tuesday of October, which is October 20th. So we know that schedule. Personally, I'd like to thank everyone here this morning for giving of your time to essentially contribute to our community and its future. It's appreciated. There's no further discussion. We can move to.
Can I actually point something out?
Yes.
So our next regularly scheduled meeting is October 20th. We are required to adopt a budget by October 23rd. Are we going to be in a place to just adopt a budget at that time, or should we aim to have a special meeting in either late August or September to have a first pass at the budget and then see if there are any modifications we want to make so that we can adopt the budget at October 20th?
Great point. Yeah, you were reading my mind. I wasn't sure, because if we have anything that's for debate during that, it'll and carry it over, we're in trouble.
Right. We definitely will be.
That's a good call, Stephen.
Makes a lot of sense. We could schedule an interim meeting between now and then. Got nothing to lose.
I would recommend we do that. I think, I mean, given where we are now, we're in July. I mean, we could even do it September 22nd. That would still give us, it would still be Tuesday. And it would give us ample time to make any modifications that we might need to the to a budget before we approve it on the October meeting.
I like that idea. I like that timing, because it gives me a little bit of time to get some numbers to this, and then a little more time after that to revise.
So you said Tuesday, September 22nd, Stephen?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting.
All right. Do we agree we should calendar that for the next and it'll be a schedule?
Same time, same station, or do we wait and see if we're eligible to do open meetings or what?
Well, same time for sure.
Yeah.
8 o'clock. All right.
Okay. Let's go for it then. Put it
Right.
on the schedule.
And I will have just spent a week in the backcountry not utilizing any wastewater services.
To your knowledge.
Okay. We have the next meeting scheduled. We've done the board and staff reports. We can move to adjournment if there's nothing further to be brought before the board. And if that's the case, we can adjourn at 9:33.
Hey, Walt, this is Steve.
Everyone.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Hey, can you give me a call after the meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris. And I'll bail out right about now.
Done. God, I got 3 text messages. Dewey says, I'm planning on stopping by Perch. What time? God dang, let's see, Birch today, 2 to 4. Oh, God, 2 to 4 Birch. Hi. I'm just texting. What did I say? What time today? Shit. God darn it.